welcome back to part 25 of Neptunia Reverse. We've only got one more fake heart to take down, and I entirely forgot about this boss fight that's coming up. I will talk about it more after this cutscene. Let's hurry and catch those two. They'll need all the help they can get. Up until now, I was saying constantly that the fake white heart was the one that I gathered would probably be the hardest for a lot of people. I just somehow entirely forgot fake purple heart's fight existed. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I just entirely forgot. And I even went back, fired up Rebirth 1, loaded up a save nearest to this point, because I was literally like 2 fights away from it on like 1 loose save, to make sure that I did just somehow forget. No, the hardest boss fight in the entire goddamn game is coming up in this video. Like, fake purple heart is insane. She's a fucking monster to fight against. And I don't know, I don't know how I forgot. I just did. And so I cannot stress enough, choosing to fight the other goddesses first was the smartest choice we could have made, because it allowed us to get a few more levels in everyone in preparation for what's coming up. And if you're playing Reverse, if you're playing on arranged mode, this fight would probably be a lot less of an issue because you have, goddesses to bring with you. But you don't, canonically. If you're not playing with the DLC, or like playing arranged mode, or you're just choosing not to use the DLC characters, your party, your selection anyway, none of them are goddesses. Because, well, I say that, Nep technically is, but she doesn't have access to purple hearts. So she is weaker than she normally is. So it's one goddess without the goddess form, and a bunch of humans. And part of the giveaway is that we just picked up a new weapon for mages, even though mages in our party yet, because we're going to be catching up with mages soon. And it's like we got Magus and Marvelous AQL coming up, who will be meeting, and we've got another character. It says one more human character to meet that will be added to our final team later. IF, Compa, Nep, that's your whole party that you're going to have for this dungeon. And yeah, it's the hardest fight of the lot, and you don't have power to go with it. But yeah, I've mentioned a few times in this episode why I haven't recorded too far ahead usually. Well, now we're all caught up on this video, and I had all weekend to record more, and what did I do? I played Tales of Arise instead. It was entirely my bad. But the thing is that I ordered the physical PS5 copy from the Bandai Namco store directly. It didn't arrive on the day, and to be fair, as of this recording, it's still yet to arrive. But I got an email from Bandai, like at the end of that day, like on the end of launch day on the 10th, saying there's been a delay, so to make it so you can still play it today, here's the code for the game. I put in the code. It was for the Ultimate Edition version of the game, so I've got like every single of the little bonuses that come with it, like for free essentially, but I only ordered this physical standard, and I was like, huh, neat. Which definitely it helped incentivize my desire to, play more of it, and I've just really gotten into it. I don't love it as much as I love Berseria. I think the best way to put it is that Tales of Berseria is one of my all-time favorite games. Tales of Arise is a really fantastic game. There is a difference there, though. Because Berseria is one of the best games I've ever played in my life, and I love it to death. Tales of Arise is just a really damn good time, and I'm really enjoying it for what it is. Like, there's a difference. I'll explain more after this scene. Well, a sudden encounter? You're kidding me. Why is the fake Nep here? Where are Magi and Marvy? Were they beaten? Can't believe they would lose so quick. But first, what do we do about this? The difficulty at this is that legendary just us 3. Die. Hey, it's young Falcom. You need help, Neptune? It's Falcom, just in the nick of time. But why are you here? I heard that the CPU here was on a rampage, so I came to check. It's a bit tough to fight when it looks like Neptune, though. Don't be fooled by its looks. It's fake, so there's no need to hold back. But shouldn't you be a little bit more hesitant, Iffy? What are you saying? This is the perfect chance to unload stress. Oops. Did you just say unload stress? Oh, don't nitpick. Let's just get this over with. This isn't the purple heart fight I was on about. This is a warm-up. This is not the fight I was on about at the start of the video. That's insanely tough. This fight is reasonable. But yeah, now we have young Falcom. But if you have all the, if you're playing on Reverse or using the DLCs, we also have a big Falcom. We have adult Falcom in there as well.
I can be tough too. It's my turn.
Because they aged her up a little bit and should have had a bit more batter and bruising on her in later games. But yeah, listen, this isn't the main event, so I won't talk about this fight too much. This particular fight is about as hard as the rest of the fake fights, so you will just whittle your way through it. So I want to talk about Tales of Arise again, or more. The big thing with me is that with Tales of Arise that keep in mind I haven't finished the game, and I also will not spoil anything, so don't panic. It's definitely more grounded than a lot of other Tales of games. And I say this as someone who doesn't like most of the Tales of series. I just really love Tales of Berseria. That game in particular, for some reason, just struck a chord with me, and I ended up loving it to death. But Tales of Berseria, despite being an extremely dark game in places, with a very subdued and serious story in a lot of ways, was still a very, very weird and quirky game at points. And it was extremely charming because of it. Like when Aizen had to build secret tunnels in the prison island, or like all the, just speaking of Aizen, like all the bromance banter between Rokuro and Aizen, or like Velvet's seriousness constantly getting kind of thrown off gear because of Magilou's just Magilou. She's just this absolute force of chaos, whilst having this very curious and childish and naive Laphicet be the one to tell Velvet to get off her ass and stop moping. Will you quit whining? That scene, you know? Like, it had all this really, really fucking charming stuff. And it was really quirky and really weird. Like, there was a super boss where you fought, like, a mascot character that looks from a different Tales of game called Phoenix, where you straight up fought other main characters of the series that had been transformed into penguins. Like, the game got weird, and it lived for it, despite having its extremely dark and serious plot. And it made the entire game extremely lovable. It made the cast absolutely adorable. And so going into Tales of Arise, and although some of the weirdness and some of the quirkiness is still there, it is severely toned down because they're trying to make a more grounded and more serious, in more senses of the word, experience. It feels Western when I play it now. I think it's the best way to put it. Like, it's gone from like an Eastern JRPG to a Western styled JRPG, if that makes sense. Like, it's still very much a Japanese company, and they're still definitely having fun with it, but it feels like they're leaning into their Western audience a bit more to try and make something a bit more like serious and like and like gritty, I think it's a better way of putting it. Like, it's still very charming in a lot of ways, but I just kind of miss how exaggerant Berseria was. And then, like, going into, like, the combat, like, once again, I haven't finished the game, nowhere near close, so who knows how much it will evolve beyond this. But my first impressions are similar, where it does feel more neutered and watered down. Especially when, and I guess it's just, like, combat spoilers. They introduce this idea where if you, like, break the guard of an enemy and then batter them up enough with your arts, this blue bar will fill up. If the blue bar fills up completely, you can initiate like an instant kill attack, or if it's against a boss fight, it will like be a phase shift, like it will force them into the next phase of their fight. And it kind of feels like a giant replacement of Dual Arts from Berseria, where you get like two characters and get enough points on their special meter, and then you could use them both to do like a super almighty like flashy attack that had a lot of like clever banter with it, like where Aizen and Rokuro beat on the same enemy to test which one is the better fighter.
Leave it to me.
Sort of thing. Like some of the really charming Dual Arts are now replaced with like these 2 second. To be fair, still pretty flashy, but these 2-second long like snappy insta kill attacks that end before they begin because they know you're going to be seeing them a hell of a lot. So instead of making it the really long fancy animations, they're over in half a second. And I have got access to a full-on Mystic Arts, which is what like the main ultimate attack is. And that's cool, even if you don't have as much control as you used to about when you want to use them. And I've yet to see the AI buddies use it once. But I don't know whether that's just my luck. But I'll have a cutscene, I'll have to explain it and say, really? I haven't felt this freely in a while. If he was super energetic. You meanie demon archdevil. Hey, look, a fake nep. Wait, Iffy, stop poking me, it hurts in a super bland way. Neptune sure is fun to be with. But what happened to the other two who went ahead of us? We haven't met them at all since we came in. I have a bad feeling about this. Because the way it worked in Berseria is like essentially you had a third meter. You had your health, you had your skill points, then you had another meter that was like a circle that when it filled up would add a point on your total. So it'd go 1, then 2, then 3. And as you went throughout the game, you could eventually upgrade it to count higher. When it's on free, if you held down R2 after certain attacks or certain actions, you would go into their mystic art and it would do like this super flashy animation and do a special attack. If you did extra requirements and had 4 points, you'd do like a level 2 mystic art, and even more, and 5, you could do a level 3 mystic art, which were insane if you could pull them off. They were amazing if you could pull those fuckers off. And so you had full control of it. Like, you built up the meter and then you decide when to burn it off. In Arise, however, it's more like a limit break system. If you get perfect dodges a bunch or just get beat up a bunch, eventually your characters will go into like this limit break mode where it no longer costs them to use any of their arts, because usually it costs stamina to use an art, and it makes it so you have a far higher tolerance to stun, so you can be whacked around and kind of attack through it pretty freely. But they're time limited when they activate, and you don't have choice of when they activate. They just happen to activate when you take enough damage, or you get or you happen to perfect guard or dodge. Then it says hold any 2 attack buttons during an art, you'll use a mystic art, but you can only use it during then. So you get a free mystic art. It immediately ends the limit break, but it's the nature of you don't get to pick whenever. It's only when the game says so to put you in limit break, then do you get to decide when to do it, and you better do it quick, because if you don't, the special meter for the limit break mode will run out and you'll lose your chance. And I just was a bit like, oh, okay, that's... I kind of like, if you remember my top 10 list, one of the biggest reasons why I ended up placing Tales of Berseria so high is because I love options in action games. And Tales of Arise has definitely muted the options front. Like, you don't get to build entire combo setups like you can in Berseria. Where in Berseria it'd be like, okay, when you press square, what are the 4 actions from first attack, second attack, third attack, and fourth attack gonna be? Now do it for X, triangle, and circle as well. So every attack has a 4 chain. And what you could do beyond that is say, do hit 1, press the dodge button, attack again, and now you'll do hit 3 in the combo. So you could jump around and freeform it even in mid a fight. You could spam dodge 3 times in an attack and immediately do the 4th hit of a combo. And then it would cycle back around to 1 as you do it. So I know I've just talked over the mini-boss here, but I need to talk about my feelings a little bit. Whilst in Arise, you have a basic 3 or 4 hit combo string that you cannot alter in any sense of the word. And X, square, and triangle are now your mystic arts, and you place just 1 on them, and that's your lot. You can't freely customize an entire set of 16 attacks like you can in Berseria, and I also miss that because it just makes the gameplay slightly less interesting. Especially because you can't, if you can, I don't know how, because the game's not making it fun for me. I say that I really am finding the game fun, it's just I don't know if I'm missing something or what. But as it stands right now, I have no idea how to instantly change characters mid-combat. I know how to change characters mid-combat. You can pause, go to team edit, change leader, and then you change who you're in control of. But you can't just D-pad juggle the entire party like you could in Berseria. You can't, every single member you get, you can't just like mid-combo say, oh okay, I'm going to tap right and swap to the next character. Okay, now they've done their 3rd hit, I'm going to swap to the next character and now have them use their mystic art. And then whilst they're doing their mystic art, hold right on the D-pad so it goes to the next character's mystic art straight after it. You can't seemingly do that in Tales of Arise. They kind of want you to be whatever character you put in control of is the character you're sticking as. And to be fair, the AI is pretty good. I have the AI set to semi-auto and kind of just let them do their own thing. The only thing I changed was how often they use apple gels, because they were burning through that thing like a motherfucker. So I altered their AI scripts to more accommodate that, which is something I actually do like with Tales of Arise. I love the fact that you can alter AI scripts. It reminds me of Final Fantasy XII in that regards, where you can build a script for their AI, so they will, when set condition happens, they will do set thing. And you have a lot of freedom to kind of do what you want and put as many instructions as you want in it.
It's my turn.
And I do very much enjoy that they've got that there. Even if I can't stress enough, alter the default one. As much as it might be tempting to just leave it on default, alter it, because on it has like when a teammate is low on health, use healing skills. But when you start the game, only one character has healing skills. So if that character is the one that's low on health, they will only use the next instruction, which is use an item. And when other characters are low and they're busy using an item, they're not getting healed, you know? So you need to put, when allies are down, use items as well, or allow them to. Maybe make it so healing goes first in the list, like using magic goes first, but for God's sake, make it so that's on there on that list somewhere, because otherwise you'll regret it. In the same vein, put if a character goes down, use a life bottle as well. I've been playing on moderate, which is between normal and hard, and I'm only playing on moderate just because of my experience with Berseria, and it is fucking hard in places. And so there's a point where characters just die very quickly. Like the first skill I went out of my way to get to unlock for everyone is like basically second chance. They won't die in one hit. The health will stop at 1, and it has been a lifesaver. But put a teammate on. If a character goes down, we'll use a life bottle, because otherwise the only character that can pick them up is the same healer, because they have a resurrection spell. And if you're putting everything on one character, if that character is then the one in trouble, you're screwed. So you need to like throw it around and space it out a bit more. And, at least so far, there's no recording blocks, unlike Tales of Berseria, so I might actually get to record Tales of Arise one day. I'll say that, if there's no recording blocks, I will eventually, just not straight away, because if it's anything like Berseria, it's going to be an extremely long game. But now it's time for that hideously difficult boss fight I was talking about. It's probably to work out the stress from Nep out of my body. Sight? Well, they just keep coming. This is just getting chaotic. You're both safe. Oh, so it's you, Falcon. Sparing the formalities, may you help us a bit? Leave it to me. I'll show you my 8 blades, 1 sword style. As reliable as ever, Falcon. Oh, but with these numbers, it could be a bit tough. Not a problem. That one over there should be the main. It looks like she's the one generating all these fakes. Alright then, we just gotta beat her, right? Well, you surprised me. Don't enter the discussion without prior notice. It's bad for the heart. Whoops, sorry, I heard you two, so I just went in. Neppy, are you sure you're okay? You can't use HDD, right? No problem at all. I can still fight without HDD. No, you can't. No, you can't. Not in this fight, Nep. Right, the first thing you're going to see me do here, this isn't my victory attempt. This is me going in with, oh, it's another one of the fake heart boss fights. I'll just bring in Magus and Marvelous AQL and it'll be fine. I went in and you just saw what happened. She killed 3 of us in 1 strike. This fight dragged on for like 12 minutes and it didn't work out. So I went back in, I equipped new stuff on everyone, I built new discs, and I altered my team. I chose instead to bring Compa in place of Magus, but have Magus be on the assist of another character. Essentially, we're going to be using, like, with the exception of Iffy, the entire party in this fight. We're going to be swapping people out, because this is the hardest fucking fight in the game. The biggest thing with this fight that you have to understand is that Fake Purple Heart is not only extremely powerful with her attacks, they have wide as hell ranges, so there's a good chance multiple characters be caught by it. She has a very high crit rate, so she can just straight up one-shot characters if she gets lucky. And to top it off, she heals close to 16,000 health every single goddamn turn. And she will heal her own guard points back, so you can't waste too many turns only healing yourself. Otherwise, her defense will just build back up, so you can't do it. Like I said, what, 16,000 health for every turn? So essentially, how this fight works is that you need to have someone on full buff support, and then you need to start working on the guard. Don't worry about the health right this second. The moment the guard breaks, you need to continue pushing a full assault until this fucker dies or you die. Because if you start stalling to start panic healing and buffing, she will gain back a lot of that health insanely quickly. So Fake Purple Heart is bullshitly tough. Despite the fact I've buffed the hell out of my party and built very specific setups here, and you're going to see me exploiting those very specific setups throughout the entirety of this fight, this isn't an easy fight. The reason why this video is this long is because of this fight. This particular attempt goes on for like 12 or 13 minutes. And obviously save all your EXEs until you break the guard. Don't use them beforehand because you're only going to be working against yourself. And if you don't have super EXEs, I have no idea how you're going to really stand much of a chance of this fight without excessively grinding. For the love of God, bring super EXEs. And if you're really struggling and you're playing reverse, you've got those characters with you, those 3 DLC characters. Use a couple of them. Put in some of them. It's okay to struggle and use those DLC characters. This fight is ridiculously tough for no good reason. I've mentioned before that the first Neptunia game has some really interesting and out there balancing.
Ouch.
And I always say that in quotation marks when I say that, because this game's balance is like a giant heartbeat. Chapter 2 is insane. That one boss in Chapter 5 can be pretty tough, and now this exists. It's just, oh my god.
Slice you in
But that's the general idea of this fight. You need to have a dedicated healer, I feel. You could probably get away with it with healing items if you have healing circles in like extra amounts, so you can have like group healing. But other than that, no, you need a dedicated healer that can heal several people at once. So having Compa do group wides is very good. The only trade-off is that Compa's one of the weakest characters in the game, stat-wise, so it's kind of a she'll protect you if you protect her.
cross combo. My turn.
Which is why I've got her slightly spaced away, so if Fake Purple Heart does do like a group-wide attack, which she does, she has a get off the attack where she does a full 360 swing. Oh, there it is. So she does a full 360 swing, and it does insane damage and has an annoyingly high crit rate, so it can kill several members at once if she gets really lucky.
It's dynamite.
I have Compa slightly more spaced away from it in the hopes that it will result in her being spared and it will attack someone else. But it doesn't happen often. Also, bring SP charges. They're expensive, I know, but get them. Because you're going to need that healer to remain a healer for the duration of this fight. And if you're anything like me and you haven't been... Because I've been trying not to grind, really, in this. I want to be around the level the game expects you to be. So if you're an adequate level for this, or like the expected level for this, you're going to really need Compa to remain around and keep everyone topped up. Because you'll struggle otherwise, you really will. I've also got every single character, other than Nep, the disc they're equipped with has crit defense on them, which means it's far harder for them to be critted. And keep that in mind as you watch Nep crit us a fair number of times throughout this fight, the fake Nep even. Like, she gets a lot of critical hits on us, despite the fact I had crit defense on everyone. So imagine what it was like if I didn't have crit defense. I genuinely think this fight is the ticket too far in a lot of ways in terms of difficulty, because you don't have a single goddess character with you. I think if you did, it would be far more manageable, but as it stands, no, this fight is insane.
Got you. Wind, heed my command.
It's one of those things where it's like, during Nep, Blanc, or Noir's chapter, before you finish it, see if you can come here, see if the game lets you. So that might actually be something worth trying out, because if it does, for fuck's sake, use those goddesses. Like, go partway through into Vert, get Vert to join, and then instead of doing her dungeon, finishing her part, see if you can come here and see if you can bring them along, because I haven't actually tried that to know if you can. Because if you can, that might actually be a wise idea, to just bring a HDD Vert with you, just so you've got something to help you out a bit more. Or Blanc, because she's a brick wall, so she can tank a lot more of what's going on. But you see, here's me unleashing every EXE, and look at the damage I've still got to do. This doesn't kill, and the fight goes on for another 10 minutes because of it. Because she fights back. And it starts falling apart because Purple Heart starts getting a lot more crits. I forget to relay some of my buffs that I put in place, and I end up having to play catch-up healing, which playing catch-up healing is never good. When everyone's low and they are doing more damage than you can heal, there's serious trouble. But at least I finally get to show off Marvy's EXE since I'd yet to. So there's that, I suppose. And it's not a bad idea, especially, you know, if you're playing original Rebirth 1, you only have a party of 3, but you have 6 members in total, so everyone should have an assist even if you're not using DLC. Use the fact that you have those assists. If a character's super weak and you're not in a position to be able to reasonably save them for one reason or another, swap them out. Use the assist and being like, yes, it will spend a turn to do so, but it's a far better option than trying to save them just to have them die and be wasted. Which is why I've got, like, because I know Marvy, she's extremely fast, but she's very frail. Her worth will run out eventually, which is why I've got Magus on backup behind her. I didn't bring Iffy just because I genuinely feel that Iffy's kind of worthless. It's the same with Compa. If it wasn't for Compa's healing, I would have Magus in the front line instead. But I have it so when Marvy starts to run out of her worth, I can just swap her for Magus and get Magus in instead. Especially because Magus, you know, being the magic user, can make distance, so she isn't the target numero uno. But Jesus. Like, we're in a position right now, this is exactly what I mean. That heal the reason why I used an EXE there wasn't because I was trying to get extra damage. It was entirely because EXEs push the enemy turn back. So I was hoping it would give me enough of an opportunity to further heal Marvy, because Marvy was in dangerous health. And here's where it starts falling apart. Every time Purple Heart gets a turn, she picks the targets, you know? And she's determined to get them killed. And you're going to see me use EXEs almost as soon as I can, every chance I get, just to try and keep on top of damage. But that health bar's gonna build back up to around the second P of Purple before this fight, like before I start cracking down on this fight again. Because eventually I kind of full reset. I just say, you know what, stop worrying about the boss. Let's heal everyone up. Let's get everyone's SP back together. And then let's push on breaking the guard again. So she ends up healing most of her health back because I'm not even attacking her. I'm just prioritizing getting everyone back up to snuff. But this boss is just wiping the floor of us consistently. And what doesn't help is that sometimes she does attacks that have next to no wait time. So she gets 2 turns in a very short amount of time. So she just heals 32,000 at the snap of a finger. And it's like, come on. Come on, game, that's not really fair. You should only make it so she has the extra wait time to make up for the fact that she can do shit like that, and we have to compensate for it. See, like, her health bar's back up to the first P, and we was at F. We was at F on her name earlier. We was actually lower than that. We was actually nearly done at one point, and now look how much it's built back up to. Because it's going to go further before we're done. Aye. But talking about Tales of Arise, the next one we'll talk about is the music. The music, I feel, is very fitting, but not as catchy.
It's my turn.
Like, I remember distinctly Rokuro's theme, the Prison Island theme, Velvet's theme especially. Velvet's theme is phenomenal. I love Velvet's theme in Syria. I remember the Final Dungeon theme. I remember all the battle themes. I remember all the major boss themes. I remember that fucking optional dungeon theme, admittedly for the wrong reasons, but I remember the optional dungeon theme. That one. I remember that. Tales of Arise, at least so far, none of the tracks have stuck out to me. Like, they're fitting, like, it's a very, like, when you're in, so I'm trying to be extremely evasive of spoilers, but when you're in the opening areas of the game, you're learning about, like, what's going on there and how the world works and what's going on in this nation, and it's a very, like, grim scenario, and so the music reflects that by having this very, like, worn down militant theme to it. Like, people have been battling for a very long time and they're stuck in this seemingly endless stalemate against the enemy, so it feels like the troubles of war, the theme, but it just didn't stick out. It ends up feeling like movie orchestras, where it's like they're good and they do what they need to, but you don't necessarily always remember them afterwards. And I don't mean this, I'm digging it. The music is very good, and the battle theme I have come around to, and I do enjoy it. At least the battle theme I've heard so far, and the boss theme I've heard so far are both good. They just don't have, I guess I'm using that word again, charm that Berseria had with its music, where I think a lot of it is because Berseria was a very synthesized soundtrack, whilst Arise feels entirely orchestral. The synthesized nature of the soundtrack, they kind of use that as an opportunity to do a lot of crazier stuff. And a lot more out there stuff, whilst Arise, where it's like completely committing to the orchestral theme, seems to not really be doing much else beyond that. Like, it's good orchestra, but it's just an orchestra. Like, it's not as varied, I think is the best way to put it. Like, I'm trying to like word it in a way that doesn't make me come across as like a really, really overly skeptical person with Tales of Arise, because I do genuinely like the game. It's just I feel like the direction they went wasn't the direction that brought me to the series in the first place, if that makes sense. Like, it's still a very good game and I'm very much enjoying it, and I'll definitely be doing a let's play at some point of it, assuming there isn't any block scenes later on, because I want to talk about what I love about it, because there is a lot I really am enjoying right now. The characters being one thing, so I won't go into it and won't spoil it because the game's still so fresh, but I really enjoy the characters. I think all of them are really like good and well written characters that you have a good reason to care about. Yeah, they're not the party and misfits the Berseria crew were, but that's besides. At the same time, I wouldn't want it to be another group of misfits. You know, like, I feel like that would be a bit repetitive if they just did the misfit group again. As much as I love misfit groups in any kind of media. But Tales of Arise's party is really enjoyable. I find all of them very interesting, and I like how their characters are slowly but surely developing. I kind of hope some characters go a certain way of their development later on, but who knows, as the health reaches the second P of this boss. But who knows right now, because I've deliberately avoided spoilers. Like, I stopped watching the trailers for Tales of Arise ages ago because I wanted to go in completely fresh, or at least as fresh as humanly possible. To such an extent, I didn't actually know what the main character's real name was. When the game introduces the main character at the start, I guess because it's literally the opening of the game I can talk about it, he's got a mask on. And that mask is welded to his head, and he has amnesia, so he has no idea who he is. Because I hadn't watched any of the trailers and didn't know anything of it, I didn't know who he was either. It's just like when the game's like, oh, this is his name, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. At least we know who his name is now, because I genuinely didn't know up until this point. Yeah. And the environments are nice. Like, I've enjoyed going through the environments, mostly because they're brighter. Like, a lot of Berseria was kind of dark and moody for a lot of the game. Like, it had bright moments, like the beachy air, the beach zone that went into that water temple was like my favourite zone in the game because of how bright and colourful it was. But for the most part, it was very moody with a lot of its colours and tones. Whilst in Arise, right from the start, there's a lot brighter colours with it. And so I can appreciate that the new engine and graphical style they're using for it not only looks better on a technical standpoint, they're using it for the right reasons to make the game shine in better places. I am aware, because I do remember the initial like reveal teasers for Tales of Arise way back when. I am aware that it's been downgraded a little bit since then, but that was also quite a long time ago, so I was never expecting it to be the same. Like, I know, like, I'm sure like Tales of fans will correct me on this, but at some point in planning, they didn't want it to be the situational combat anymore. They wanted to make it that it free-flowed from being in the field to fighting enemies. Like, they didn't want it to be that you approach the enemy and it transitions into a fight and then you start fighting them like all the other Tales of games. They wanted it to be that as you explore the world, you can just fight enemies as you pass them by. So I might be wrong on that, but I think that was... I just can't shake the feeling that I remember that being something they either mentioned or showed or something in the extremely early days of development, but now they've backpedaled back to the traditional formula of being it transitions into a fight, which is fine because I like that. I love Berseria, and Berseria does that. And as I said, I think they use that wisely to get more out of it. The only thing I miss is the end battle animations, where they'd actually have a victory screen at the end of a fight. And in a lot of the older Tales of games, like, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the series, I still liked it across the whole series. They had all these unique animations that would play depending on how fights ended. Like, if you had ended a fight and you had Rokuro, Aizen, and Laphicet in the party, to use Berseria as an example, maybe Rokuro would start teasing Laphicet, and eventually Aizen would step in and go, come on, leave the boy alone. Don't stop messing around with him. He's too naive to know. Or maybe, like, Velvet and Eleanor would have, like, this very, like, serious battle quote, and then Margilu would just come in at the end of it and just make a silly joke out of it. Like, they had these fancy character animations that added more just charm to the end of the fight, where they were all just fucking around kind of thing. Tales of Arise doesn't do that. Tales of Arise doesn't have victory animations. When you've killed the last enemy, it just immediately transitions back to the field and shows your results on the side of the screen as you run around. And yeah, they have victory quotes, like they say stuff sometimes, and they can have little jokes here and there. It's not the same. Also, we finally killed that goddamn boss. You know, it took us a long while, but we got there. And it's like, it's just not the same to me. I miss it. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, yeah, I know I'm bitching a lot of Tales of Arise, but if you've been with this channel a long time, you know, the more I enjoy a game, the more I critique it. And this should just be a sign of how much I actually really enjoy Tales of Arise. I just miss what Berseria did in a lot of ways. And I personally think that, at least in gameplay, Berseria is better right now. So I haven't finished Arise, so I don't know how much the game will evolve as I go through it. And I'm very excited to see how it will evolve. Especially as I get more characters in the party and the story evolves, yada yada, and we meet more faces, and like they introduce more stuff, yada yada. But as it stands, I vastly prefer Berseria as a whole compared to Arise. And then I know that's not fair because I haven't finished Arise, which is why I'm holding a final judgment. I'm just saying how I feel right now, or first impression. Nice to see Nep's characteristics got copied too. Oh yeah, all the fake Neps went to the wrong place. Iffy, you didn't praise me there, right? When you're looking for the legendary weapon, it was actually in the Basilicum, and all the fake Neps just went to the wrong place. It was all beat up. You can't use cut a radish with this. The Trinity blade is hundreds of years old, so it's only natural. Can we just borrow the blade for a short while? Unfortunately, no. Without Our Lady's approval, it won't happen. Oh no. Ta-da! I'm Neptune, player 2 CPU, the one and only Purple Heart. So as CPU, I allow the blade to be used. You're funny as usual, but this isn't a toy, so sorry there. I'm not fooling around, I need a CPU. Nep, you should stop while you're ahead. No one will believe you right now. Oh, come on. We at least know where it is. Let's head back for now. Let's go. I'm super tired and hungry. Oh, how about some futamaki? Futamaki, huh? That sounds perfect after a good workout. It would be sublime if it could be paired with duck pea. I'm not sure if pairing rice and carbonation is a good idea. Well, let's get back and get us some grub. Yesy! And I'm going to wrap this up here and pray to future me that I get off my ass, stop playing Tales of Arise for 5 minutes and actually record more footage because I am actually all caught up with footage, so there won't be a video tomorrow if I don't get new footage recorded. Anyway, next time on Neptunia V2R, we're going to, now we've got all the weapons, reunite with everyone to see what our next step is. But until then, you guys take care now. Peace.